Alright everyone, we are back for part 10 of the best PC Racing Simulator 2024 edition. Here we are with EA's WRC in Tanak's Ford Focus from last year. They don't have him, they don't have the 2024 driver lineup. Well anyways, doing a tarmac stage and then going to follow it up with a gravel stage, very similar to what I did with RBR. I am using VR as well. VR is a bit of a late addition to WRC, so it's somewhat in beta, I guess. But it does function. And you can kind of tell there's a lot of pop-in on the screen happening in VR. You got to run everything pretty much on the lowest setting to get it to function. The game looks obviously much better on a monitor. I think it actually looks pretty good on a monitor. It's got a bit of that Dirt Rally 2 thing where, I don't know if it's oversaturated or a bit too colorful, I guess, at some points, it feels like. So there's certainly that, although I feel like the color balance is a bit better in this. Overall in VR, the game doesn't really run all that well. It was at least smooth enough to use, but it was right on the edge of running below the frame rate that I need, so considering it's one car on a one stage, it's a little bit disappointing, but maybe they'll hone that in. And again, I don't want to judge the game graphically based on VR. I like using VR. It's way more immersive and fun, so when I can use it, I'm always interested to test it out. Certainly with RVR, it runs very smoothly. With this game, not so much. But maybe in some amount of time, they'll get that dialed in a bit better. So you can kind of see here the tarmac driving is pretty strange. It can be fun, but it just feels very gamey. What you would expect within it, a Codemasters follow-up to Dirt Rally 2. The tarmac physics were never really, they were the worst part of Dirt Rally 2, so it kind of follows that this would be similar, and it is. They are not, it's not the best feeling part of the game. So the cars tend to feel like they rotate from the rear tires. So there's this kind of strange thing where they don't really feel like they rotate around the center mass, or that you're really steering with the front tires. It almost kind of feels like you're rear steering. I don't know. It's hard to explain it, but it's pretty obvious once you drive it with a wheel. And certainly, the game is made for a gamepad, I'd say primarily. The majority of people who play this game are not going to play it on a PC, and they're not even going to play it with a wheel. They're going to play it with their gamepad. And so, with a gamepad, it probably handles pretty good for a gamepad game. So yeah, the physics and the tire model are there as much as they are for any Codemaster games, which is to say, not a whole lot. Not really a strong suit. It's a fun game to play, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't really give you all that much. I will say the force feedback is not the absolute worst thing. There's worse force feedback in some other EA games, or even maybe some other Sims, or at least force feedback that's about as bad. So I would say it's okay. The cars don't really lose traction in any kind of realistic feeling way. They kind of just do this canned slide maneuver when you do lose traction. So there was the tarmac stage, about 4-minute stage. I think it was Croatia, and now I believe this is an Estonian stage, which is very fast.
2, 1, go 80, 5 left short, of the crest, 50,
I think the game sounds really good, actually.
80, 6 left of the crest, slowing.
The co-driver is set to earliest sound callouts, or pace no callouts, and they're still too late. And I remember that in the beta when I played this. That was one of the big complaints, was that the pace notes just get called too late for some of the really sharp hairpins, and it's still the case. It's still like that. So, but overall, I mean, I think the co-driver sounds pretty natural. He's a little bit maybe too relaxed, but you know, it doesn't quite give you the intensity that you're sitting in actually flying at 100 miles an hour through the forest, but it's clear at least. I think it functions okay. It's not easy to make a co-driver and pace note system. You know, I think that's something that's probably much overlooked. I mean, essentially it's just calling out a sound at a certain location, but you know, to get that sounding natural and how he transitions and all, it's probably pretty hard to do that. And anyways, so yeah, there's a good amount of content in the game. Obviously, all of the new rally, WRC Rally 1, Rally 2, Rally 4. Although, like I said, they don't have the 2024 season in, it doesn't seem. Yeah, maybe I missed it, but I don't think so. Anyways, there's a good amount of historical rally cars as well. Certainly, you're not going to get near the content you get from RBR. Yeah, so sometimes you can literally almost take flight. That felt a little weird to me because I know I kind of steered a little bit left over that, but man, that was a huge jump. You had to be really careful. The front end definitely comes up, which is not totally unrealistic, but the car kind of doesn't feel like it has a lot of weight to it. Anyways, there's a lot of historical cars. The stages are actually much better in WRC than I think they were in Dirt Rally 2. They are more narrow. They feel a little bit more realistic. They have longer stages. So all that I think is really quite good. So I overshot that corner really bad right there, but you kind of just stand on the brakes and the car stops. You know, that's one of the WRC, that's one of the EA or Codemaster factors you get in, is you can just overdrive on ridiculous levels. And of course, from any kind of competitive standpoint, you can also drive into the woods and just drive out as well. Any type of competitive standpoint, it really takes a lot away from that to me, because you're going to have guys who can, you know, find all those little kind of ways to exploit things, and it certainly happens in this. I think there's a pretty decent multiplayer player base because it is cross-play, so that's a good thing. There's probably a lot of people playing this in Europe. You know, and they do offer quite a bit of different competitions, and even a, you know, quick race mode you can hop in, or quick rally mode where you can hop in against other drivers. They have leagues and different other things that you can participate in. So, you know, the multiplayer side of it's decently fleshed out, and if you really like playing this, then you could certainly find ways to spend time. And then, of course, the career mode is pretty substantial in itself and pretty fun. So, I played a WRC game from a couple years ago, and it was actually quite fun to go through the career mode and just, you know, progress your way through that. And, so this game takes a lot from that. And I think that was one of the KT Racing WRCs maybe, but, you know, they borrowed some from that and then brought in some Dirt Rally 2 stuff. But it works well. And this game's not even that expensive. I guess because it's not probably selling that well, and it has been out for about a year now. Maybe not about a year now. Maybe not quite. So you can get it. You can get it at a really good deal.
Okay, that's a 4-minute 26.6.
The AI is actually really fast. They're quite tricky to beat at higher levels. So, all right. Well, that's 2 stages. Let's move in and score this game. All right. Let's put some scores down for WRC. Graphically, the game is not perfect, but I think it looks pretty good for a rally game. Yeah, it's a new game, and yes, they've had a lot of other previous games that they have incorporated into this game, and so there's really no excuse for the game not looking good, but I think it does look good. It doesn't function that well in VR yet, but it's certainly passable. Maybe a little oversaturated, Maybe a little too much focus on, it looking too bright and just kind of fluffy and not clear. I just tend to prefer simple and clear. But this is more of a console game, right? So 8 out of 10 on graphics, though. I think it's pretty good. Now, the physics and the tire model and the force feedback. Kind of what you'd expect from a Codemaster game. I have issues with the physics in this game, and always have, and I really wanted to like it because, honestly, after so many years of playing RBR, I kind of wanted a new rally game that I could really get into, but I guess I'm just too spoiled from that. I don't know. Not really. They've just kind of missed the mark too much for me. The cars feel like they rotate, from the rear of the car. They kind of tend to just float around the road. It doesn't matter if you're on tarmac or gravel or snow. They kind of feel like they drive the same. The setups don't really do anything. And even to me, like, obviously there's a big difference in the cars that you can drive, but they all kind of feel the same. I don't know. It's just very gamey. It's very simcade, if that's even a term. I don't really like using that term, but essentially it just doesn't simulate, really real rally racing that well. So physics-wise, to me, it's a 3 out of 10. Tires, 3 out of 10. You don't really feel much when it comes to the tire. When you do go over grip, it's very random. It feels like you have unlimited grip, and then you all of a sudden go over grip, and then there will just be terminal understeer or this weird kind of canned oversteer effect that happens just for like a second, and then the car catches. It's very hard to do like handbrake slides because the tires don't really slide in any kind of reasonable manner. So 3 for both of those. Force feedback's a little bit better than I expected, and a little bit better than I'd say the physics side of it is, so I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. I think the game sounds really good. I think the cars sound quite good, and I don't feel like they're too crazy. Like, they didn't try to go too much, to let's say like WWE wrestling, or just kind of ridiculous with them. I think they're actually quite believable and pretty good. Co-driver sounds clear. The calls are too late, but still overall, I think it sounds really good, which is not surprising because Dirt Rally 2 also sounded good. So I'm going to give the sounds a 9 out of a 10. They're really close to perfect. Co-driver could be slightly better. Some of the engine sounds could be a little bit meatier sounding, but overall, very good. Content, I think this has a lot of content, especially for what you get just buying a base game. They don't have a bunch of add-on content yet anyway. So you get all the modern cars, you get quite a few historic cars, and a lot of iconic historic cars, which are what people are going to want to drive. And then the stages are way better than they were from previous WRC games, I feel like. And certainly they've got longer stages. Now granted, it's essentially still just like 1 or 2 long pieces of road where they cut it up, and that's disappointing. But and so I can't give it a 10 out of content for sure, and it's nowhere near RBR's content quantity, but what they have, I think, is good enough quality in the content itself, so it's an 8 out of 10. The AI in single player, well, obviously AI is just times in this game, but they're adjustable to a very good scale, so you can find AI time that works for you, and you could just kind of have to role play it a little bit of how hard you want them to be, or how hard you want it to be for you to win or be on the podium. But once you dial that in, and then of course you can tweak it a little bit as you go, you're good. Single player is very fun. The career is quite expansive, and there's championships that you can do, and regulatory rally and all that. So there's lots of content for single player side here, being again a console kind of game. So that's a 10 out of 10. I mean, it's in comparison to all these other sims, this has a lot more single player stuff. I think there's actually a decent multiplayer player base. There is crossplay, so that's nice. So anytime you bring in console, you're going to have a decent amount of players. But I didn't try a whole lot, but I didn't find like a ton of players. I kind of feel like this game is struggling, which is a bit sad considering it hasn't been out that long. But anyway, we know Dirt Rally 2 ran for a long time and still probably has a decent player base. This one is decent. It's a 6 out of 10, I'd say. And then the rank system, there is some ranking system in there. And of course you can do league rallies and online championships and all that. So I mean, yeah, if you want to do that, it's there. I don't think it's all that well supported, but you know, it's good. I'd say it's slightly better than average. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. It's not a 0. There's definitely stuff there. And like I talked about, the cost is actually reasonable for this game, especially you can get it on sale for like maybe 25 or something. So it's actually really reasonable. I assume there's going to be some DLC soon, you know, coming out, and it's probably already announced, and I just haven't kept up with it. But the cost to me is good, so I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. All right, so yeah, WRC comes in with a score of 65 out of 100. And obviously, it's not going to win any awards in this competition. I think everybody probably knew that. I knew that going in, but I felt like I needed to have one other rally game to at least compare with RBR. And technically, it is kind of sold as a sim game on the PC. So hey, it's on the PC. It's new. This is part of the problem, is we don't have a lot of new sims. So I'm having to dig into the EA sims, and that's going to be a bit of topic at the end of this. So that is what it is. It's a 65 out of 100, and we will see you for part 11. We're almost done. We got Le Mans Ultimate next, so I will see you in that one. Until then, happy sim racing, and we'll see y'all later.